The weakest species. The arena was loud. Alien voices shouted from every side. Lights flashed. Drums pounded. The crowd waited for the fight to begin. Deep below the arena, in a dark and cold room, a human sat on the floor. His name was Jax. He was quiet. He didn't speak. His face had cuts. His hands were tied. "Get up, human," a voice said. An alien guard kicked Jax's leg. Jax stood slowly. He looked weak, but his eyes were sharp. "Today, you fight in the pit." The guard laughed. "You won't last 1 minute." Jax didn't answer. He followed the guard up the stairs. As they walked, other aliens stared at him. "Why are humans even allowed in the games?" one alien said. "They are weak. Soft. Not real warriors," said another. "This one will die fast," a third laughed. Jax heard every word. He didn't look at them. He just kept walking. He was brought to the gate of the arena. Across from him, the other fighter was already there. It was a big alien, over 8 feet tall. Muscles like stone. Claws like blades. His skin was dark red, and his eyes glowed. The announcer shouted, "Today we welcome the weakest species in the galaxy, a human," and his opponent, Grak the Bone Crusher. The crowd screamed with laughter. Jax stepped into the arena. The sand was hot under his feet. The sun above was bright. He looked small compared to the alien warrior. Grak roared and slammed his fists on the ground. He wanted to scare Jax. Jax didn't move. The fight started. Grak charged. Fast, loud, like a monster. Jax jumped aside. Dust flew. Grak hit nothing. The crowd went silent for a second. Grak turned, angry. He ran again. This time, Jax rolled under him. He grabbed a piece of broken spear from the ground. Small, but sharp. "What is he doing?" Someone in the crowd shouted. "He's not fighting. He's running." Coward. But Jax was thinking, watching. Grak was strong, but slow. Big, but blind with rage. Grak attacked again. Jax ducked and stabbed his leg with the broken spear. The alien screamed. Blood poured. The crowd gasped. Grak swung his arm, hit Jax in the side. Jax flew back, rolled on the ground. He coughed. It hurt. But he stood up. His legs shook. Blood on his mouth. But his eyes, still sharp. Grak came again. Jax waited. This time, he moved at the last second and stabbed the alien's arm. Again and again. Grak roared in pain. He fell to one knee. Jax walked slowly toward him. The crowd was quiet now. No laughter. Only watching. Jax raised the sharp spear piece. He could kill Grak. End it. But he stopped. He threw the weapon to the ground. "I don't need to kill to win," he said. Gasps filled the arena. No one had seen this before. Up in the royal box, a tall alien woman stood. Her armor was black. Her eyes cold like ice. This was General Vexa, the champion of the arena. Her voice was strong. "Interesting," she whispered. Jax looked up at her, then turned away. The guards came. They took Jax back to the prison. But the whispers had already started. "Did you see the human? He made Grak kneel. He didn't kill. He chose mercy." Maybe humans are not so weak. And somewhere deep in the shadows, Vexa smiled for the first time in years. The training begins. The metal door slammed shut behind Jax. Inside the prison cell, it was dark. The walls were cold and wet. He sat on the floor, breathing slowly. His ribs hurt. His shoulder was bruised. But he had survived. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he thought about the fight. Every move. Every step. Every mistake. He didn't smile. But deep inside, something had changed. He was still alive, and the galaxy had noticed. Early morning. Loud alarms rang. Metal gates opened. Dozens of prisoners were pushed out into a large courtyard. It was a training yard for the arena. Dust rose under heavy boots. The air smelled of oil and sweat. Jack stepped into the light. Alien fighters of every shape and size were already there. Green skin, sharp horns, metal arms, tails. They all looked dangerous, and every one of them stared at him. "Look," one alien said, pointing, "the little human who got lucky." Others laughed. "He beat Grak because Grak was slow. It won't happen again. Humans should be pets, not warriors." Jax stayed quiet. A loud voice echoed across the yard. "Line up." They stood in rows. A tall alien commander walked between them. His armor was gold. His eyes were black stones. "I am Commander Zul. You are nothing. Trash. If you survive this training, you may fight in the arena. If you don't, your bones will feed the sand." He stopped in front of Jax. "Look down. You, human." He spat. "I don't know why you're here, but I will break you." Jax said nothing. Zul moved on. Training began. First was the strength test. They had to lift heavy blocks made of dark stone. One by one, aliens lifted them with grunts and roars. Jax stepped forward. He wrapped his hands around the stone. His arms shook. Veins popped. Sweat ran down his face. He couldn't lift it. Zul laughed. Pathetic. The others laughed too. Jax walked back to the line, breathing hard. Second test. Combat. They were given short staffs. Wooden, but strong. Each had to fight one-on-one. When Jax's turn came, he faced a lizard-like alien. Fast, cruel, experienced. The whistle blew. Jax got hit on the arm, on the leg, on the side of his head. He fell down, but he got back up. Again, he was hit. Again, he stood. 3 times. 4 times. Zul shouted, "Stay down, human." But Jax stood again. The 5th time, he blocked the attack. He didn't win, but he didn't break either. Zul stared at him, annoyed. Stupid human. Later, as others rested, Jax sat alone. His hands were shaking. His face was swollen, but he was still thinking. He watched the others, how they moved, how they held weapons, how they balanced their feet. They were stronger, faster, but they moved with pride. No caution, no planning. Jax made a plan. Night came. The cells were locked. Most prisoners slept. Jax didn't. He used his time to stretch his body, slowly and quietly. He moved his legs, his arms, his back, small steps, little by little. No one saw. Next day, another test. They had to cross a long pit filled with spikes. Above it, ropes hung like spider webs. Swing, jump, climb. No falling. Aliens moved fast, but they fell. One lost his grip. Another slipped. Jax watched. When his turn came, he didn't rush. He moved slowly, carefully. He used his legs, not just his arms. He balanced his weight. He made it across. Zul narrowed his eyes. "Lucky," he said. Jax didn't answer. Days passed. Every day the same. Pain, insults, training. Every night, Jax trained in secret. He started lifting small rocks, then bigger ones. He studied alien weapons, how they worked, how to break them. He found ways to use his size, his speed, his brain. The others kept laughing. Until one day, during sparring, Jax faced a tall, 4-armed alien. The match began. Jax dodged the first hit, ducked the second, then rolled forward and hit the alien's knee. The alien stumbled. Jax jumped up and hit again. And again. The alien roared in pain. Zul shouted, "Stop." Everyone watched. Jax stood still, breathing hard, weapon in hand. He had won. No one laughed. High above the training yard, behind a black window, General Vexa watched. She had been watching him for days. He is not strong, she said quietly. But he learns, he survives, and he does not quit. The officer beside her said, "He is still human. He will break." Vex's eyes stayed on Jax, or he will rise. That night, back in his cell, Jax looked at the wall. He drew a mark with a small stone. Another day survived. He closed his eyes. He didn't dream of escape. He dreamed of victory. And somewhere in the dark, the galaxy shifted, just a little. The arena of blood. The arena waited like a hungry beast. Above it, the twin suns burned red. The sand below shimmered like fire. Banners flew high, carrying the names of champions, most of them long dead. Thousands of aliens filled the stone seats, shouting, laughing, drinking. They didn't come to watch skill. They came to watch blood. And today, they would see Jax again. He stood inside the tunnel, staring at the light at the end. His hands were tied behind his back. Guards checked his chains, then pushed him forward. "Don't die too fast," one guard sneered. "The crowd wants a show." Jax didn't reply. As he walked, memories flashed in his mind. Every fall, every insult, every punch he had taken during training, all of it had led here. The gate opened. Light hit his face. Hot wind touched his skin. The sound of the crowd slammed into his ears. The human again. Someone shouted, "He's just a toy. Let him bleed." Jax stepped into the arena. He looked small, alone, fragile. But his eyes were calm. On the other side, his opponent walked out. The ground shook with each step. The alien was huge. 6 arms, thick armor plates across his body, and 2 large blades instead of hands. His name was Korak the Devourer. He had won 47 battles, and never once had he shown mercy. A roar came from the stands. "Kill him, Korak. Slice the human into pieces. Let us see his bones." Jax stood still. A voice echoed through the arena. "Welcome to the fire pit. Today we bring you a special fight. Our champion from the Blood Moons, Korak. And facing him, the only human who ever survived the pit, Jax the Lucky." Cheers. Laughs. Boos. Jax looked up. In the royal box, General Vexa sat like a statue. Her eyes locked on him. The horn blew. The fight began. Korak charge. He didn't wait, didn't test, didn't play. He went for the kill. His 6 arms moved like blades of wind. Jax ran. Not because he was afraid, but because he had to think. Sand flew as Korak chased him. The crowd booed again. "Run, little man. Coward. Fight." But Jax kept moving, circling, watching. Korak was fast, but too heavy. Every swing left an opening. Every roar meant he wasn't thinking. Jax ran toward a wall, jumped, kicked off it, and rolled behind Korak. He grabbed a sharp piece of metal from the ground, probably left from an old broken weapon. He struck Korak's back. Sparks flew. The blade bounced off the alien's armor. Jax jumped back before Korak could grab him. He needed another way. For minutes, they danced. Attack and dodge, strike and block. Blood dripped from a cut on Jax's arm. His leg was sore. His lungs burned. But he was still standing. And the crowd had stopped laughing. They were watching now. Leaning forward, quiet. Then Jax saw it. A weak spot under Korak's 3rd arm, just above the hip. Small, unarmored, easy to miss, but real. He waited. He let Korak chase him again, this time pretending to limp. The alien roared and lifted all 6 arms for a final strike. Jax dropped to the ground and slid under him. With all his strength, he stabbed the broken metal into the soft spot. Korak screamed. He turned to smash Jax, but he couldn't stand straight. Blood spilled fast. Jax moved behind him and jumped on his back. He held the metal deeper, twisting it. Korak fell forward, face in the sand. The arena went silent. Jax stood, covered in dust and blood, breathing hard. He looked around. No one cheered. No one laughed. They didn't know what to feel. The announcer's voice was shaky now. And the winner is Jax, the human. High above, General Vexa leaned forward in her seat. He did not just survive, she said. He defeated a war machine. The alien beside her whispered, "Should we stop him?" Vexa shook her head. No, let him grow. Jax didn't raise his hands. He didn't shout. He just walked away from Korak's broken body. The gate opened again. As he passed the crowd, some looked away. Some stared. One alien child reached out a hand toward him, then quickly pulled it back. Jax entered the tunnel and disappeared from sight. But his name had already been written into the arena's blood-soaked walls. Later, in the prison cell, Jax sat on the floor, holding his side. He was tired, hurt, but alive. A whisper came from the cell next to his. "You beat Korak." Jax didn't answer. "They fear you now," the voice said. "They will come for you." Jax looked at the wall in front of him. "Then let them come." He marked another scratch in the stone wall. Day by day, fight by fight, he was changing. Not just surviving, becoming something more. And somewhere, in the stars above, other prisoners, other humans, were hearing the news. A human had beaten a champion. Hope had entered the galaxy. The warriors challenged for the first time in years. The arena was quiet. Not a silence of boredom, but of tension. Everyone in the galaxy had heard the news. A human, once seen as a joke, had beaten two deadly alien warriors. Not with brute strength, not with high-tech weapons, but with something different, something they didn't understand. Cleverness, heart, courage. His name was now whispered in prison cells, in slave ships, in dark corners of broken planets. Jax, the human who doesn't kneel. In the dark training yard, Jax stood alone. He held a staff in his hands, moving slowly, repeating the same motion again and again. Swing, block, step, turn. His body was covered in bruises and cuts, but his movements were smooth, sharper than ever. He wasn't training to survive anymore. He was training to fight someone stronger than any monster. General Vexa. In the command tower, Vexa watched him through the screen. Her silver armor reflected the light. She stood with her arms behind her back, her face calm. An officer beside her said, "The council is watching. They say he must be stopped before he becomes a symbol." Vexa didn't blink. Symbols are dangerous. But do you know what's worse? The officer looked confused. What? She turned, a human with a reason to fight. Hours later, the arena gates opened again. The sun was setting. Shadows stretched across the sand. Torches lit the stone walls. The crowd was already waiting. But this time, it felt different. They weren't laughing. They weren't mocking. They were watching. Waiting. The gate on the left opened. Jax stepped out. No chains. No guards. Just him. He walked with steady steps. Each footfall a message. I am not afraid. In the stands, some aliens whispered. Others held their breath. He's back. Who is he fighting now? What if he wins again? The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. Today's match is unlike any before. By request of the arena's master, we bring you a fight between species and between beliefs. On one side, Jax, the human who defied death. On the other, our undefeated champion, General Vexa. The crowd gasped. All eyes turned to the second gate. From the darkness came the sound of metal footsteps. Then she stepped into the light. Tall, proud, deadly. Vexa wore no helmet. Her face was calm, cold, unreadable. Her armor shimmered like stars. On her back, two curved blades that had ended hundreds of lives. She walked forward and stopped a few feet from Jax. "You earned this," she said softly. Jax looked into her eyes. "I didn't come to impress you. "Good," she said, "because I didn't come to spare you." The horn blew. The battle began. Vexa moved first, fast, like lightning. She struck low, then high, spinning one blade and throwing the other. Jax ducked, barely avoiding the spinning edge. The crowd shouted. Jax rolled to the side, grabbed a broken spear, and faced her. They circled. Vexa tested him. Quick attacks, changing speed, changing direction. Jax blocked some, dodged others, but not all. A blade cut across his side. Blood spilled. He didn't cry out. He didn't back away. He remembered every night in the cell, every insult, every moment when he wanted to give up but didn't. This wasn't just a fight. This was a question. Can a human stand equal to the galaxy's greatest warrior? He countered. Quick jabs, low kicks, movement, not power. He used the sand, kicked it into her eyes. For a second, she blinked. He hit her shoulder, hard. Metal cracked. The crowd roared. Vexa stepped back. Her eyes narrowed. "You learn fast." Jax nodded. "You taught me." The fight continued. A dance of speed, skill, pain, and purpose. Jax was bleeding from his arm and leg. Vexa had a cut above her eye and a dent in her shoulder plate. They fought like opposites. She was perfect form and strength. He was messy, smart, and unpredictable. She pushed him back with a spin kick that sent him flying. He landed hard, coughing. She walked toward him, raising her sword. But Jax didn't stay down. He stood, face bruised, eyes burning. "You should have killed me the first day," he said. Vexa hesitated for half a second. That was all he needed. He lunged, sliding low, pulling her foot, and striking the back of her leg with the spear. She dropped to one knee. The arena went silent. Jax stepped back, breathing heavily. Vexa looked up at him. He didn't attack again. Instead, he dropped his weapon. "I'm not here to kneel," he said, "but I don't want to make you kneel either. I want you to see." She looked at him, chest rising and falling. Then, slowly, she placed her weapon down and bowed her head, not in defeat, but in respect. The arena erupted. Some cheered. Some screamed. Some didn't know what to feel. But the moment was real. A human had stood against the galaxy's strongest warrior and made her bow. Up in the sky stations, leaders watched in silence. "This changes everything," one said. "We must stop him," another growled. But no one moved, because something new had started, something they couldn't control. Later, in the shadows of the hallway, Vexa walked beside Jax. "You changed the rules," she said. Jax nodded. "Or maybe you just forgot what they were supposed to be." She looked at him for a long moment. "You still have more battles ahead." Jax looked out at the stars. "Good," he said. "I'm not done fighting." The next morning, the arena was empty. No fights, no crowd, no music. Only the quiet wind blowing across the blood-stained sand. Jax stood alone in the center, eyes closed, breathing slowly. He wasn't preparing for another fight. He was preparing for what came after. Because last night, something had changed. He didn't just win a battle. He made the unthinkable happen. General Vexa had bowed. In the far corners of the galaxy, the news had already spread. On slave ships, humans whispered his name like a spark of fire in the dark. In high councils, alien leaders argued, afraid of what he represented. "We let a human challenge our order," one leader shouted. "This ends now," said another, "or it spreads." But it was already too late. Jax wasn't just a fighter now. He was a symbol. In the training yard, alien warriors stood in silence as Vexa walked through them. Her armor still carried dents from the fight. A deep cut above her eye was still healing, but she wore it like a badge. Many avoided her gaze. Some looked at her with confusion, others with something close to fear. She stopped in front of Commander Zul. He stood straight, trying to look brave. You taught him to break, Vexa said. But he didn't. Zol didn't answer. She leaned in. Perhaps you are the weak one. Then she turned and left. Deep underground, in the prison halls, guards opened the doors. They didn't speak, didn't push, they just nodded. Jax walked past them, free. The other prisoners watched from their cells. Some gripped the bars, some pressed their hands together. He didn't look proud. He looked focused. In a large chamber, lit by blue fire, Vexa stood waiting. In front of her, Jax entered slowly. They didn't speak for a moment. Then Vexa stepped forward and placed something on the ground. A sword. Made from pure obsidian, used only by honored warriors of the old galaxy. Take it, she said. You've earned it. Jax looked down at it, then back at her. I didn't fight for a title. Vexa smiled slightly. You didn't fight for power. And that is why you have it. He picked up the sword. It was heavy, but it felt right in his hands. Later that day, a call was sent across the system. The High Council had summoned Jax. Not for punishment, but for a test. A challenge of honor. A ceremony held only once in 1,000 years. They expected him to fail. They expected him to break. But Jax arrived with Vexa at his side. The ceremony was held on the floating citadel above the arena. Leaders from every corner of the galaxy sat in a great circle. The floor was crystal. The walls showed stars beyond stars. In the center stood the Old One, a tall, gray-skinned alien with no eyes and a voice like wind. You are Jax of Earth, he said. You stand accused of upsetting the balance. Jax stepped forward. I stood for myself, and for those who have no voice. What do you seek? The Old One asked. Not revenge, Jax said. Just truth. The Old One turned to Vexa. And you, warrior. You bowed to a human. No, Vexa said. I bowed to something greater, to the strength that does not crush, but lifts. Gasps filled the chamber. One leader stood. This is madness. Humans are weak. Jax looked up. Then fight me, he said. The chamber went silent. The leader hesitated, then sat down. The Old One raised a hand. Jax of Earth, do you swear to protect those who cannot fight? To teach, not destroy. To walk with power, but not pride. Jax nodded. I swear. The Old One turned to the circle. Then kneel and rise as a guardian of the galaxy. Jax looked at the circle. Then he shook his head. No, he said. I will not kneel. A gasp echoed. I do not kneel to titles, not to fear, not even to honor. I stand, because others cannot. Silence. Then Vexa stepped forward. She looked at Jax, and for the second time, she went down on one knee. And this time, it was not a fight. It was a choice, a warrior's choice, a galaxy's choice. One by one, others followed. An insectoid captain, a lizard soldier, a machine general. They knelt, not to a man, but to an idea, to the human who refused to kneel. Jax stood still, eyes on the stars. He was not a slave now, not just a survivor. He was a leader. And the war was just beginning. The uprising. Far beyond the arena, in the dark zones of the galaxy, stars blinked in silence. But on every station, every mining planet, every slave colony, Jax's name had become a spark, a whisper, a flame. He made her kneel. He didn't run. He stood alone, and still won. And then it stopped being just talk, and started becoming action. On the prison world of Garn, where humans mined stone until their hands bled, a young boy stood on a box and shouted, "We are not weak." Guards laughed, until one of them was knocked out by a flying rock. Within minutes, the mines were burning. On the broken moons of Darash, where human engineers were used like tools, workers refused to fix the ships. They left their tools behind and sang a song Jax once hummed in his cell. And in the skyport of Zekthar, where humans couldn't walk without being kicked, a woman named Naya, once a medic, now a slave, stabbed her master in the leg and said, "This is for Earth." The fire was spreading. Back at the arena, Jax stood on the edge of the training yard. He wasn't wearing chains. He wore black cloth and light armor. Simple, ready to move. His sword, the one Vexa gave him, hung across his back. Around him stood others, not champions, not warriors, but former slaves. Humans, aliens who had once been beaten, forgotten, ignored. They stood tall now. "Why us?" one asked. Jax looked at each of them. "Because no one expects it from us," he said, "and that's our strength." Vexa stepped into the circle. Her armor still carried the signs of old battles, but her voice was clear. "The Council has sent an army," she said. "They will crush this uprising before it grows." Jax nodded. "Then we don't let them." "How?" someone asked. "We don't have ships. We don't have weapons." Jax turned to an old alien with 4 arms. "You built ships for them once, right?" The alien nodded. "Then build them for us." Jax pointed to another. "You used to lead soldiers." "Yes, before they took my family." Jax placed a hand on his shoulder. "Lead again." Day by day, the yard turned into a camp. Humans and aliens trained together. They taught each other, learned from each other. No ranks, no masters, only respect. At night, Jax stood by the fire. Naya came and sat beside him. "You ever think about home?" she asked. Jax looked at the stars. "Every day." "You think we'll ever see it again?" Jax didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "I'm not fighting to go back. I'm fighting to make sure no one else is taken from theirs." She nodded. "Then let's win." The enemy came faster than expected. Black ships filled the sky. The Council had sent their enforcers, elite killers trained to destroy rebellions before they began. They landed with thunder. The ground shook. From the sky came machines, monsters, and mercenaries. And in front of them all, Commander Drax, a warlord who believed in fear and fire. He stood tall, his armor red like dried blood. "Bring me the human," he growled. Jax stepped forward. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood Naya, Vexa, the alien builder, the 4-armed soldier, and over 200 fighters. Half-trained, under-equipped, but full of something the enemy didn't understand. Hope. Drax laughed. "This is your army, broken people and weaklings." Jax didn't answer. He drew his sword, the old one made of obsidian. Drax smiled, then died with pride. The battle began. Ships exploded in the sky. Sand turned to fire. Jax moved like a shadow, faster than before, smarter. He didn't just fight to kill. He fought to protect, to defend. He saved a child hiding under a wrecked cart. He dragged an injured fighter to safety. He led from the front. Vexa fought beside him, her blades dancing like light. Naya used stolen tech to blast enemy armor open. The alien builder activated traps across the field. Every step they had planned counted now. The enemy outnumbered them 5-1. But still, Jax's side didn't fall. Drax roared in anger. He grabbed a giant axe and charged toward Jax. They clashed in the center of the field. Metal hit metal. Jax was pushed back, cut across the arm, hit in the side. But he stood. Drax lifted his axe for the final strike. Jax caught it with his sword, and with one hand, he grabbed a dagger from his belt and stabbed Drax in the chest. Drax gasped, then fell. Silence. The enemy paused. They looked at their leader. Then they ran, one by one. The enforcers scattered. The ships pulled away, and the field was quiet again. Jax stood in the middle of the smoke, blood running down his face. Vexa placed a hand on his shoulder. "You started this," she said. "Now lead it." Jax looked around, at fighters helping each other, cheering, crying. "I don't want to rule," he said. "You don't have to," Vexa replied. "Just walk ahead, and we'll follow." Far above, in the highest towers of the Galactic Council, alarms rang. Maps lit up with red. "The human movement is spreading," one leader said. "Other species are joining. This isn't just a rebellion." They turned to the screen. A single name blinked in white. Jax. And out in the stars, people everywhere stood up. Some raised their fists. Some picked up tools and weapons. Some just whispered. He made them kneel. The last stand. The galaxy was no longer silent. On every moon, every station, every deep space outpost, something had changed. Not just fear, but resistance. Not just whispers, but roars. Flags were falling. Walls were breaking. And the symbol they followed wasn't a crown or a machine. It was a human. A fighter who never asked to be a leader. A man named Jax. High above the core worlds, the council sat in a fortress of black stone and golden light. 23 rulers from 23 species. They had ruled for thousands of years. They controlled trade, armies, laws, even truth itself. And now they watched as their system crumbled. One by one, colonies had stopped obeying. Mining worlds had gone dark. Trade routes had been taken over by rebels and ex-slaves. And everywhere, the name Jax lit up screens like a virus. "He must be erased," said a counselor with metal skin. "Not just him. The idea of him," growled another with serpent eyes. "His people have built an army. We must crush it before it reaches the core." The head of the council, a silent being called the Veiled One, raised a finger. "Then let us welcome them," it said, with fire. Deep in space, Jax stood on the bridge of a stolen battlecruiser. Outside the windows, a fleet moved with him. Ships built from scraps, stolen parts, old tech repurposed by slaves and outcasts. They weren't the biggest. They weren't the fastest. But they had one thing the council feared: purpose. Vexa stood beside him, reading battle routes. Naya worked at the communication panel, speaking to rebel groups across the system. The four-armed veteran loaded weapons with alien engineers. Everyone had something to do. Everyone was ready. Jax walked to the center of the room. He looked at every face. "This isn't just about us," he said. "This is about all of them. The broken, the beaten, the forgotten. They want to erase our voices." He held up his sword, the same black blade Vexa had once given him. "Let them hear us instead." The final battle began above the burning skies of Calnine, the last gateway to the Council's seat of power. Council warships filled the stars, smooth, massive, armed with the best weapons in the galaxy. The rebels flew in tight lines, weaving between them. They were outnumbered 10-1, but not outmatched, because they had learned from Jax. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like survivors. Smart, fast, fearless. On the ground, troops landed. Rebels, civilians, ex-gladiators, all fighting side by side. Jax led from the front, sword flashing in the firelight. His feet moved through ash. His eyes locked on the black tower ahead, the heart of the council. That's where it would end. He reached the gates. Vexa and Naya followed. Behind them, explosions lit the sky. The battle above raged. They didn't stop. Inside the tower, guards attacked. Jax moved through them like a storm. Vexa cut through steel like paper. Naya used her stolen gear to freeze doors and shut down drones. They climbed higher and higher until they reached the final chamber. 23 counselors sat in their thrones. The Veiled One stood in the center. Jax stepped forward. "This is your last chance," he said. "Step down or fall." The Veiled One laughed. "You are one man." Jax pointed behind him. "And you are alone." Outside the tower, Rebel forces stood on every rooftop, every hallway, every screen broadcasting live. The galaxy was watching. The Veiled One lifted its hand. Energy sparked. A weapon formed from light. Jax didn't move. "I've faced monsters in cages," he said. "I've blood and sand for your games. I've been told I'm weak. Small. Nothing." He stepped closer. "But I'm still here." And then he ran. He met the Veiled One head-on. The weapon struck. Jax blocked with his sword. Metal clashed with light. Every hit echoed across the tower. Nea screamed. Vexa tried to break through guards holding her back. Jax fell once, twice, but stood again. The Veiled One raised its hand for a final blast. Jax looked it in the eye. "I don't need power to win," he said. "Just a reason." He threw his sword. It struck true. The Veiled One dropped, and silence fell. Jax stood, shaking. He looked around. Counselors backed away. Some ran. Others dropped their weapons. Vexa stepped beside him. "It's done," she whispered. Jax shook his head. "No." He walked to the center, looked at every camera still recording. "This galaxy belongs to all of us, not just rulers, not just the strong. All of us." He raised his voice. "Today, we break the chains." The tower lights dimmed. Outside, rebel banners rose across cities. Ships stopped fighting. People stopped hiding. From the slave moons to the glass worlds, the message spread. Jax had won, not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to kneel. Some say he disappeared after that day. Others say he walks among the stars still, helping those who need him. No statues were made, no palace built, but every child in the galaxy now knows the name. Jax, the human who made the galaxy rise.